Good afternoon, it's 5:19 and we'll begin the Board of Trustees public hearing. I'm going to go ahead and start with roll call. We've got Mr. Orlando Lopez.
Present. Present.
Myself, Dr. Ariel Cruz, present. Rudy Corona.
Present.
Frutoso Gomez.
Present.
Crystal Hernandez.
Present.
Alex Reina. Israel Villarreal. Alfredo Perez.
Present.
Tony Torres. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 1.2, do we have any public comment on agenda items? No. There's no public comment, so we're moving on to agenda item 2, discussion of the renewal of district innovation plan for the 2024-2025.
No.
Okay. Discussion on adopting the budget for the 2024-2025 school year. Ms. Monica Mata?
Okay. Good afternoon, Board President Mr. Lopez, Board of Trustees, and Mr. Perez. I passed out the proposed 24-25 budget for San Benito CISD. I'm going to go through it, and the first page you see is just a letter stating that we're going to present the budget. It's from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. The next page is information that we based the revenues based on, which is an ADA of 8242.103. Our 23-24 currently at the end of the year was 7,963.207. The increase for the 8242 is due to the additional pre-K3 classes we added, the enrollment numbers that we had at the 91.7% that the pre-K3 classes had this year is what I used for, so I wouldn't do the 100%. And then also we applied for the optional flexible school day program that we're going to be implementing school-wide, and that Mr. Martinez helped us with that, and that calculation would be 25% more would be 225 students, 228.75, so I included that. We could have gone with a little bit less, but Mr. Perez and I discussed it. We feel 25% is okay. We did look at it, or I did look at it, and I shared it with Mr. Perez that 80 more students is about 600, a little bit over 600,000 more in revenue from the state. That's about 5 students more per campus in attendance. All 6 weeks, or every 6 weeks, 5 more students. So if we get 10 more and so forth, so that's just for you to more or less gauge how we get arrived at the 225. So that's for the ADA. Of course, the salaries are based on the 24-25 compensation plan that will be reviewed in the meeting. And then, of course, the tax rate, which we don't approve till September, is at a 0.7369 for M&O. And for INS is 0.2799. Again, that's based on the compressed rate from the state, and we go based on what they tell us, this is your max, and that's what we approve. So we don't submit that till August again. So that's information that we based our revenues on. Any questions? Okay. The next page, you see the summary of proposed budget by fund groups. And this one is revenues for food service, and we already went over these. Basically, last board meeting we had, and I'm just going to review them really quick. So for the revenues for food service, a total of $11,947,509. That is comprised of using 2.292509 of fund balance. Remember, this is what TDA stated we needed to use 3.7. We're already budgeting in there 2.2. We actually got notified from TDA last week. Mrs. Soto received the email that all the projects that she wants were approved. So she's already working, so in July you should see some campuses for upgrades come in, 3 of them, and some combination ovens is what she's working on for the July meeting. Hopefully we meet that deadline. And so you'll see that. So that's not budgeted here, so you'll see a budget amendment to release funds
What
from
was-
fund balance.
What was that amount that was approved for her?
3.7 million
That's already been approved.
from TDA, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, on the bottom portion, you can see the expenditures that equal the same thing as the revenues. For the next section is funds 161 through 199. Again, that is athletics, band, choir, and the general fund. Total revenues is 113,026,440. And again, we are working on looking at increasing ADA, so that number that you see under 3,600 for fund balance will go down if our ADA increases. Like I said, every ADA that we get, or at least every 80, because I looked at 80 just as a round number, would be 600,000 less than we used in the 10 million right there that it states, okay? Expenditures are equal to 113,026,440. You can see it by function. We have to present it to you all by function, but in the later pages, you can see it by object code and so forth, and we'll go over that. The last section is section 598 and 599, which are our bond payments and the LED lighting project that I mentioned to you all at the last meeting. That's a total of 8,075,671. You can see that we're using 997,351 fund balance from the fund, the INS fund itself. So hopefully, we don't have to supplement that with local funding, okay? This year, we didn't, and I'm hoping, when I looked at it, I'm hoping that we don't have to next year. It doesn't look like we are, so I didn't budget for use of fund balance from general fund to offset the payments. And of course, you can see that 45,000 is for the commission for the taxes that the county collects for us, and a little bit of payments that we do for our agents, our paying agents for the bonds. And then, of course, the payments itself for the bonds and the LED lighting is 8,030,671. For a total budget of $133,049,620. And as you can see, it's balanced. So any questions on that? The next page is just the revenues, if you want to move on. The revenues, and you can see again, local revenues, 18,438,144. State revenues, 88,229,250. Federal revenues, 10,925,000. Transfers in, and that's for, again, the 161 band, athletics, and choir, and 598, which is our LED lighting, is 1.4 million, and then fund balance is 14 million overall for the use from all three funds. Then there's a pie graph at the bottom. On the next page, it's the expenditures by object code, and you can see from how much we spend from each object. So like I said, payroll is 93,852,669, which is 70% of our budget. Mind you, this is just, again, 101, 161, 162, 163, and 199. The federal funds are not included here, so that is just not all the salaries, but just for the funds that I'm presenting. 6,200 is contracted services, and again, this is also includes our utilities, and this year we did see our utilities go up. So that is one of the reasons that this is up to 8.2 million. The utilities did go up, and I did budget about 3% increase for utilities on that. Supplies and materials is 13,191,522, which is about 10% of the budget. Travel and miscellaneous is 4,426,588, which is 3%, and then bond and leases is 8,738,771. Capital outlay is 3,183,000. In here is the remaining balance for the turf, the whole amount for the Frank Roberts canopy that we haven't paid out. It's still in construction. We're not going to pay it out completely till it's done. And also the purchase of the land, we haven't finalized that. And the demolition, in case we do demolition, that's about 40,000 for the land purchase and the demolition combined. And then the transfers out is 1,444,822. Again, the total for expenditures is 133,049,620. Any questions on expenditures by object code? The next section is the expenditures again by function. The biggest function you can see is instruction, which is our staff, our teachers, our teacher aides, and all the supplies that we give our students, and that's 60,983,000. About 46% of our budget goes directly to instruction for the teachers and the students. Everything else, the next largest function is the food service and the planet maintenance, which is the custodial staff and maintenance staff, and that's at 14 million. And again, that's where our utilities are at, so that's why it's so large as well. Again, if you can look through the different functions, if you have a question on any of them, feel free to ask, but again, the total expenditures is 133,049,620. So, and the next page is a pie chart in regards to that. The next page, you see the comparison from this current year to next year. And you can see that the largest increase is in state revenue, again, because we were at 7,900 this year, and we're estimating 8,200 next year. So you can see that 82 million currently in 23-24 versus 88 million next year. So again, if we increase our ADA, that 88 million will increase as well. So it'll be more. So you can see the use of fund balance, 15,955,000. Again, that's from the three funds, and then going to 14 million next year. And again, this is consistent with use of 101, 599, and 199. So on the bottom portion, you see the expenditures. And as you can see, we went from 130 million to 133. The raises are included in here, which is about a little bit over $1 million. The increases for the utilities is in here. And of course, the 2 million for the turf and the construction that I stated. So any questions on the comparison? You said the increase for the utilities was already? Yes, I budgeted, and that's one of the things that I'm actually going to do a study. I know during my finance committee meeting last time, so I have to do a study on the light to see if the LED lighting project is actually paying for itself the way it was presented. So that's in the works. I'll probably have it by July, maybe August, but hopefully July meeting, okay? So the next portion is, we did budget for the tutoring by campus, and you can see that where it says San Benito CISD EOC tutoring budget. I based that based on whatever they expensed this year, regardless of whether it was paid with state comp or federal funds, just to make sure that it was budgeted, because this year it was something that we did work with. And at the same time, I did budget for the transportation from the same fund, which is state comp funding. Then the last page is just the notice of the public meeting that we were having today. And then just the comparison again from last year to this year's summary that we are required to post. And this will be on the website as well. Any questions?
No, I got a question, but I have a comment. It's very clear cut here that, of course, the state funding is decreasing, like everyone knows. That's not a secret. I think by identifying some factors here that'll help us increase, our revenue with ADA and so on and so forth, and you guys have really, gone into looking into that. And I applaud you guys so much, because this is a very difficult task, especially with ESSER funds eliminated. It brings everything back to reality. So I think we as a board understand that that the finances here moving forward are going to be a little scarce, a little tight, but you guys are going to do everything you can to make sure that we continue to provide our students with the best quality of education and experience. Like, for example, the turf, and the latest and greatest technology. So and also taking care of our staff, with raises and so on and so forth. But once again, I think everybody needs to understand that there is some trying times coming, and there's a lot of work to be done. We got to focus on ADA, increasing ADA, and those are little, morsels that we need to focus on to increase that, so we can forecast and continue to increase the revenue, so we won't have to go through this situation. A year from now, we're going to be struggling again. So I really want to applaud you. I want to applaud you and the administrative staff and the administrative team for really looking into this, because it's this presentation here is extremely humbling, to say the least. And also, it's very, very clear cut that we have, that as a team, as a collective effort of this organization, the school district, that we need to work together to do everything we can to increase the funding, because, it's very obvious the state's decreasing it. Yeah. So once again, I want to thank you all so much, and the board will, continue to do everything that we can to be creative and find new avenues of revenue for our district. Okay. Thank you.
I also want to say something. Unfortunately, this budget issue is something that's been going around throughout the entire state. I mean, we came back from conference in San Antonio, and it seems like every school district is suffering the same results of the lack of state funding. Like Mr. Lopez said, I do want to thank you for doing everything that you could to do this, but I also want it to be very clear to our community and to our district that ADA is the number one thing that funds us, and we need to make sure that we are increasing attendance all across the district. Like you said, 5 kids per 6 weeks at each campus can increase by more than $500,000. So I know that there are plans in place for the school year in order to increase that ADA. And I also want to thank our staff. I know that we wish we could give huge raises every year to every single person, but it's just not feasible at the moment. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that that y'all are doing your best, and this is where we're at, and if it continues like this, we need to make sure that we're taking care of our people.
I did want to just add, a lot of the planning that Ms. Mata does and her team, we do base it on numbers that aren't as high as we'd want them to be, because we do that to be safe. I can easily say that we're going to have 100% ADA, and, you know, we have all the money in the world, but that's not happening. Just like Dr. Cruz said, this is happening across the state. You know, ADA is an issue after COVID where 98% attendance rates were very common, even in this district, to where now 92% attendance rates is what we're hitting. If we can just raise that by 3 or 4 percentage points, you know, that will increase our funding drastically. It's a very good time to talk about this budget as we go into this year and we start talking about the strategic plan, you know, because we've discussed this as a board and we've heard it at conferences. You know, one of the bases of our strategic plan is going to have to be getting everybody involved in increasing our attendance. Not just increasing our student population, we're trying things like adding our pre-K3 students, trying to, you know, we're trying something with optional flexible school day. Hopefully that brings in more funds also. Those things we didn't put to the max on this plan. You know, if we do it right, we can bring in more money than what we're saying we're going to use. So, you know, that's our plan. So I just wanted to thank Ms. Mata and her team also for the hard work they've been doing. So.
Thank you.
Okay, it is now 5:37, and I'm asking for a motion to close this meeting.
So move.
Any second?
Second.
I've got a motion by Mr. Lopez and a second by Mr. Corona. All those in favor? Okay, it's 5:37, and this meeting is now adjourned.